Hey, Zerm listeners, a lot of you have been asking me to react to the recent interview with Jada Pinkett Smith on the Today Show. So let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor.
That you'd gone through it, but you talked about the idea that you were maybe going to kill yourself.
Yeah.
That you felt like you were not, your kids would have been better off, Will would have been better off, everyone would have been better off without you.
Yeah.
She comes across as someone that is fairly self-assured. So one, I think that actually affects the public's view of her because she comes across like she's self-assured, that I think people are put off by that. But I think also it gives an impression that she's not suffering. And that would lead us to believe that she doesn't suffer emotionally. But of course, everyone suffers emotionally. So it's possible that she has a mode that she goes into to protect herself. I don't know.
What did your kids think when they saw that part of your story told in that way?
Well, I've talked to them about it.
So they know.
Yeah, they knew. They knew before the interview.
If you don't have to tell your kids about this, particularly if they're younger, then I recommend that people consider not telling their kids. However, there are times when you can't help but to reveal things to the children, and to deny it or to act like everything is fine might actually be worse for the kids. So if they see you depressed, or they hear whispers about suicide, or they read things in the news or something, so they'll be very concerned about their parent. And to have the parent say, no, everything's fine, it can actually distress the child even more. Sometimes it can help to let the child in. Children know there are a lot of dangers in the world. They have no idea how things work. They're scared most of the time unless you are right there with them. And so to have a parent who is suffering, it can be extra scary to the child because they think, well, I'm alone. I don't have anyone that I can turn to. And that is very terrifying for a child.
And then something, you took something and it changed you, and it was ayahuasca.
Yeah.
For you. Ayahuasca really was...
That was the turning point.
So that in and of itself turned you from the brink of suicide.
And I never had a suicidal thought again. Now, in saying that, ayahuasca is not for everybody.
Yeah.
All right. So there is some early research regarding ayahuasca and its effectiveness when treating things like depression or PTSD. Some exciting research, but I've been in the field long enough to know that there's a lot of preliminary research findings that seem exciting and amazing, and then it just either doesn't pan out or the effect size starts to shrink over time. And the other thing is that with an experience like ayahuasca, it might not even necessarily be the substance and its effect on the brain. It might be the experience itself, like skydiving or climbing a mountain or being in a retreat where you meditate in silence for 10 days. It's not necessarily a psychoactive substance. It's more of a wake-up call, like, oh my God, I had this really amazing experience, and I had this time to really think.
Yeah. And I want to be very clear about that. You have to really have someone who's very trained to guide you through that. It was a very extreme situation.
And currently there are centers opening up, treatment centers opening up, where they will have just that. They'll have a facilitator, a trained professional to be with you as you go through a psychedelic experience. I don't think ayahuasca is on the menu yet anyway, but in states that allow for this to happen legally, like in Oregon, and I think Washington might follow, I'm not sure, but these centers are cropping up where they will purport to have trained professionals. Some of them will be clinicians like myself who have extra training in this facilitation. You go into the facility and they have a room where it's relaxing, and the client is instructed to take a certain dose, and then the facilitator, sometimes there's two facilitators, and you're there for several hours, and there's some aftercare. And I'm not recommending it per se. I'm just saying that because, a lot of people are saying, ooh, there's research. Okay, I'm just going to start taking it. Whenever you see a headline that says like ayahuasca or psychedelics cures PTSD, almost all the time, if not all the time, at least all the research that I've seen, it's not that people just go home and take the substance and go, oh, my PTSD is gone. No, there's a facilitator there. There's often a trained psychologist or therapist that knows not only how to provide clinical services for PTSD, for example, but also how to facilitate that substance substance, how to make it safe, how to find supply that is safe, what dose, what sort of mindset should the person be in, what measures need to be taken to provide safety for the individual in case there's a problem, right? Whenever you see those headlines, it should say, psychedelics and lots of therapy with that facilitated by a trained professional, according to this research, has been shown to perhaps reduce PTSD symptoms of depression.
For me, but I swear I'm so grateful that I went through it, because in 4 days, I have 4 excruciating nights, but on the other side, I never...
And you never had a suicidal thought since then?
Never.
The title of your book is Worthy. And so today, as we sit here on this couch...
I feel worthy.
Tell me.
Yeah, I just feel so good. I've been through so much, and when you can really look at your life, and we think that life is supposed to be perfect.
I wonder if the title of the book is also, the gist I get from the public's reaction to Jada in general and currently is that they don't like her. In fact, let me read some of the comments on that. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the most upvoted comments, and one person is saying, amazing how she's able to keep a straight face with the things that she is saying. And then another person says, this is sarcastic, what a beautiful, inspirational story to have a fake relationship for 10 years, convince the public that you're still together, have an open marriage, sleep with your child's friend, sleep in separate homes, and publicly humiliate your husband. And so, I wonder if the title of the book is particularly bothersome to those folks that already didn't like her. And I think the consensus is that she already thinks of herself as too worthy, and maybe humility would be a better name for a book.
If you find another great love, or if Will finds another great love.
There's no finding another great love, and I think that's the point. It's like we are in a place now that we are in a deep healing space, and we are really concentrating on healing the relationship between us.
So it may not be the divorce on paper anymore?
There's no divorce on paper.
I mean, not on paper. There might not be a divorce in theory anymore?
Yeah, no, we really have been working hard.
Oh, I thought the news was that she revealed that they have been separated and basically not together for 8 years, 7 years or something. Is this some sort of game that they're playing as a couple to keep themselves in the news? Or probably not. I'm guessing there's a lot more nuance than what she's saying. Of course, the two of them don't have to tell us anything if they don't want to. It's their relationship. It's not ours. But I'm confused. It sounds like they are still working on their relationship. And I've seen reports and also heard things from the two of them talking about the entanglement with her son's friend, and also about their polyamorous relationship. I remember in the Red Table interview, there was some reference to that. It seemed that both of them had perhaps dated other people. And again, we don't really know their situation. For some people, polyamory is a thing that is done when a relationship is stronger than ever. And because people are oriented in a polyamorous way, they want to have other relationships, and it enhances their relationship, their primary relationship. For other people, they might turn to polyamory or non-monogamy as a way of coping with distance and difficult times in a marriage, of just like, I need someone in my life, but I don't want to break up yet, so maybe we could both date other people, and maybe you and I will kind of phase in and out of togetherness. That could work for people if it's done with consent for all involved, not only for the couple, but everyone else. You don't want to lie to other people and say they're single when you're not. So I don't know their situation, but with everything I've heard, it sounds like for a number of years they have had a lot of conflict and a lot of distance and a lot of coming back together, and a lot of separation, coming back together. Maybe times when they thought it's over, times when they thought they're back together, times when they thought, well, we're kind of in a weird middle zone. When you have a long-term relationship and you get to a certain age, you start to appreciate the messiness of a long-term relationship. Well, okay, so we know from his memoir that he published a few years ago that he grew up in a family that he was close to his mom, and his dad was physically abusive and traumatizing to him and his mom. And he would watch that. And I'm guessing also the dad wasn't super great to Will Smith himself. I don't know that, but at the very least, he observed that. And that will complicate things for you. It will potentially, given what we've seen, it could make him a comedian, right? A performer, someone who tries to distract the family, maybe even the mom or the dad, so that things calm down. That can be a result of that. Another possibility is that you might have a particular neediness with your spouse later on in life. You might even overlook bad behavior, one, because you just want so badly to have someone that's there for you and close to you because you've never really had that. It sounds like his relationship with his mom is pretty good, but it's possible there was some complications there independent of the abuse. But even with the abuse, that is a complicating factor to your relationship with your mom, because you see your mom suffering a lot, and when she's suffering, she's not available to you necessarily. So anyway, I don't know, it's possible that he's just very clingy to Jada and maybe even overlooking some of the concerns, not asserting himself because he would worry he's going to lose her. I don't know. It's also possible that he learned early in life, because of his dad's behavior, to just say, look, I don't deserve good things. I don't deserve to be safe. I don't deserve a strong relationship, because if I believe that, this hurts even more when I'm growing up. So I'm just going to say, you know what? I don't deserve it. I'm never going to get it. And I'm actually going to just surrender to the idea that I'm forever going to be in a relationship that's always going to be off kilter somehow. I don't know. I'm just making up stories, but it's possible that that is a part of it. And therefore, Jada might, given her traumas, which I don't even know what those are. We all have our relational traumas from our childhood, some bigger, some lesser than others. And for her, maybe it makes it harder for her to notice his feelings on a consistent basis.
Oh,
See?
okay. Well, I didn't know that we might.
I was trying to think.
Wait.
I totally missed that on the whole. That's the whole thing.
So wait. Just so I'm 100% clear, you were divorced, not on paper, but now we might be a point where we're back together.
We are working very hard at bringing our relationship together.
Back to a marriage again.
Back to a life partnership.
Yeah, so the interviewer is, I think, in a similar mindset of me, of just like, you're not using concrete words. What do they mean? And Jada and Will don't have to live within that linguistic framework. They don't have to conform to that idea necessarily about, like, is it marriage or separated or divorced, right? Those are the three categories that you check on the census form. They don't have to live in that. None of us do. Plenty of people do. I do. I'm married, and that's fine, but I feel fine about that. But everyone has the freedom to choose. They might phase in and out throughout the day. Hey, we're divorced now in our minds. Hey, we're together. Now, there could be problems. But my point is that she's trying to lock Jada down a little bit, and Jada is still evading. And is the evasiveness because she doesn't know what the future holds, or she's hiding something, like she doesn't really want to be with Will Smith, and she's just saying this because she thinks it works to sell her book or gets the people to get off her back? Is it that she's referring to this agreement that the two of them have, that they're not likely ever to be exclusive again, but they want to be, at the very least, very close as co-parents?
So you might live in the same house and have the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
that's the only part. That's the only part in the special that I felt like got lost.
Well, guess what? It is found. We found it today.
There was a hesitation in her voice. Who knows what that means? To me, I'm taking away from this video, this interview, that we just don't know.
You guys check out the book Worthy. It's got a lot of life lessons in it.
Okay, so I found this article on Oprah Daily. Okay, so they got married in 1997. And then in her book, it's revealed that the pair have been separated since 2016. Okay, so it says, after the entanglement, and the entanglement shook their marriage several years ago, the duo never actually repaired their romantic relationship. Okay.
But the thing that surprised me the most, that I actually had to reread it because I said, is this true?
Right.
Was that in 2016, you and Will decided that you were going to live completely separate lives.
Yes.
It was not a divorce on paper,
right,
but it was a divorce. So from the year 2016.
Oh, okay. So that sounds more like they did get basically divorced. So I'm just more confused.
7 years ago now.
Yes.
Y'all have been apart.
Yeah.
Is that inconsistent with what she was saying later? I don't understand. But she's saying that they're together now working on things. I don't know. It's, like I said, and I get it. If you're a fan, and I guess I am to some extent, the parasocial relationship, you want to know. You feel like you feel entitled, or it feels more secure when you have these details. And I will say that, in my estimation, a lot of people, when they are reacting to parasocial relationships or reacting to famous public figures, it feels like it's directly impacting us sometimes because of our traumas in the past. If you had parents that were going through a messy separation, divorce situation, even if it was just a short period of time or if it was prolonged over time, this could poke at some wounds that we have. And there's a lot of wounds for kids in situations like that. And particularly if you had a mom who was seen as the bad guy, maybe dad left the house, because this is statistically what often happens, and mom has to stay home. She's stressed out. She's a working single mom. She's now the bad guy because she has to do all the discipline, and the dad gets away with being a Disneyland weekend dad. And you have some resentment about the way your mom might have handled that. You could imagine that this could trigger a lot of people, right?
But in public, the couple, who married in 1997, denied the gossip about their marriage. This interview on Bravo's Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen was taped a year after Will and Jada separated.
So how long have you guys been together?
23 years.
Wow. That's amazing. How do you keep it hot?
How do I keep it hot? Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm always trying to be in their shoes. I don't know what their shoes are like, but I try to estimate it, primarily because I am trying to promote ideas of flexibility and nuance and care for everyone. Jada and Will, they'll be fine without me, but for everyone watching right now, there's a possibility that you're in this situation from one role or another, whether you're the Jada or you're the Will or you're the kids or even you're the therapist that's treating a couple like this. And I would like to say to that end that if I imagine possibly what her shoes are like right now, I'm just thinking if I were in those shoes and I was super famous and I was in a super famous power couples, you just know that they get asked about their marriage all the time. And it would be easier if in interviews you just talked about how everything was going fine, because you don't want to get into it. One, you don't want to reveal all your dirty laundry to the world, but also the public almost wants or needs your relationship to be perfect. That's often the way it's talked about. And for myself, when I am interested in a public figure and their marriage, maybe I'm interested in both public figures that are in the marriage, I will feel a little bummed out when their marriage isn't going well or when they split up. Why is that? It's like not a thing to me, but I just want to believe, or I like to see people being happy, or I like the idea of those two being together. So, it's illogical, but it's normal. We all do it, or most of us do. So they get a lot of questions along those lines, and you can imagine, given that it's a normal relationship that has ups and downs, that the two of them would answer in a way that just said, yeah, our relationship is great because that's what the audience wants, and I don't want to get into it. And I certainly don't want to throw my partner under the bus, because if I start saying stuff, I'm probably going to do that. So I'm just going to say everything's great. We're totally in love and everything is fine. I also don't want to publicly talk about things that my kids might see, because the kids were younger back then. I imagine that would be a tough position to be in. And then when you reveal things or things come out, everyone calls you a liar and a hypocrite, and you're thinking, well, if y'all would have been okay with nuance, I would have said nuance, but I don't think you were okay with nuance. So the nuance caught up to me and is now in the press, and now I don't know what to do.
Over the next several years, Jada and Will kept up the appearance of a committed married couple. They even faced a scandal when Jada had what she called an entanglement with a family friend. Neither let the public know they had already split.
So I guess my question is, I feel like you're a straight talker.
I am.
Except you're not sometimes.
Yeah.
Breaking up is rough and ugly. Normally, imagine that the entire world, or millions of people, are wanting to know, and then there's press and paparazzi following you around, and people paying your friends to reveal information and leak information. It's just got to make it exponentially worse.
Why do that? Like, what was the reason?
I think just not being ready yet. Still trying to figure out between the two of us how to be in partnership, right? And in regards to how do we present that to people, and we hadn't figured that out.
I don't know if it's just the way she talks, or it's purposeful, or the situation is that squishy and confusing, but the way she talks, it's not clear what she's saying, In fact, I do remember that from the Red Table interview. There's a kind of poetic way that she talks that maybe the people around her, the people who need to know what she means by that, it makes sense to them. But if I had a friend like this, it would bug me. I've had people in my life that are like this. And at first I get frustrated and I will ask more questions like, so what do you mean when you're saying that? And then over time I give up. And I just will hear things from them and I'll say like, I don't know what they're saying and I don't care to investigate it. Because if I investigate it, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get anything and it's just going to make me more frustrated. So I just have to never listen to anything they say because they don't ever make sense to me and it's frustrating to invest myself in that. She has some elements of that. And, I think that can be a result of a lot of things. There could be a cognitive issue. It could also be, there's two personality schemas that could be at play and thousands of others, but two that just popped in my head, is that for some people, they were raised in a way or they have traumas or they have traits that lead to them not having a lot of empathy for other people. Not that they necessarily want to harm others, but they don't regard other people's feelings. They don't notice other people's feelings. And that can lead to communication styles that aren't actually good at communicating. In order for people to communicate effectively throughout your life, especially as you're learning how to communicate in the first 20, 30 years of your life, you have to imagine how your communication is coming across to the other person. And a good way of knowing how you're coming across is to pay attention as you're talking and then to hear their response, or maybe asking the person, so how did you just take what I just said, or what did you think I said yesterday? To do that, you have to put yourself in the other person's shoes. You have to be interested in it. You have to be generally attuned to it. You have to be open to it. You have to care how your communication is coming across. Whereas for people that are more self-centered, it's not really on their radar. And so they have all these ideas, and so they're saying things, but they never stop and ask, I wonder how this is coming across, because they don't really care. They feel like they're brilliant or interesting or necessary, and they're spouting, and as long as the person is staring back at them, because another thing can happen is when a self-centered person will talk, not always, but for one particular profile, is that the listener could be completely glazed over and falling asleep. But for the self-centered person, they don't even notice that because, again, they don't notice if the other person is interested or disinterested or upset or bored or angry, because they're just not aligned that way. They don't notice those kinds of things. And there's a spectrum, of course, and there's different profiles, but that is one. Another is that for some people growing up, they might have been punished for being honest, for being concrete. If they were to reveal how they really felt or what they really think, they found that a lot of times they would be punished or there would be major consequences to them. So they learned neurologically to actually obscure not only communication-wise, but also in their own mind, that their mind doesn't lock in on a concrete idea, because if it ever does, it'll be harder to not reveal it. Okay, so I want to chime in here for a second. I've actually finished reacting to a lot of videos, several hours, I think, of footage. I don't know. I'll probably condense it down in the edit, but I wanted to chime in here in the middle and say that the rest of this reaction video series will be for members of the YouTube channel. So if you want to see the rest of this, you can become a member of the YouTube channel by clicking the join button below, or there's also a link in the description if you don't see a join button. And then you can see the rest of this series and also a lot of other exclusive videos that are just for YouTube members. It also absolutely helps me to do what I'm doing here, because when people become members, it means that I can pay my bills and I don't have to do other kinds of work to pay my bills, and I can spend my time paying my bills by doing stuff like this. And it really is gratifying when people become members of the YouTube channel, because it shows that people like to support what I'm doing. But if you can't afford it or you don't want to, totally fine. It's a voluntary thing, of course. So if you want to watch the rest of this, become a member. And everyone, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.